The ball exchanges and player movements were better from the Belgians in the first half, and they deserved to be a goal up. Great Britain were lucky to be able to compete with 11 players on the pitch in the second half. Yet within 30 seconds of the restart, GB had equalised. How? Why? How was a 40-yard drive by a single individual and a pass to an unmarked GB player in front of the Belgian goal, because 5 Belgian players, no doubt caught by surprise by the unusual play, were sleepwalking and ball watching. The player in front of the goal made a poor first touch, but was able to recover and pass the ball into the goalmouth for the grateful number 3 to deflect home. The number 13 scored the second and winning goal, and not the initial one as I had first thought. There were not as many incidents in this quarter as there were in the previous two, which gives me time to look at incidents like this one in more depth. The rule proper states, field players must not stop, kick, pick up, throw or carry the ball with any part of the body. But this is not intended to be a catch-all statement. There are restrictions in the way in which it can be applied. The explanation of application is set out below the rule in the rulebook. This begins by stating that not all body contact is an offence, and then describes conditions where an offence can occur. An offence occurs if there is an advantage gained, or if a field player uses the body intentionally to stop or deflect the ball. Those two statements seem fairly straightforward, but they in fact cause immense complications, because they replace an objective criteria, did the ball hit the body, or was the body used to stop or deflect the ball, with two quite different criteria which are subjective. Was there intention? Was there advantage gained? It is near impossible to tell in every case if there was intention to use the body to stop or deflect the ball, and advantage gained can be intangible, insignificant. How much advantage are they talking about? I have heard umpires declare quite categorically that any ball-body contact will gain an advantage, which is obviously incorrect. Not least because it renders the phrase "if they gain an advantage" redundant. The word "if" would not be there if there was always an advantage gained. Umpires are always going to prefer a simple objective criteria to two possibly very difficult subjective criteria. In addition to those difficulties, we also have the advantage rule to consider. I'll come to that in a moment. The current wording of the explanation of 9/11, not always an offence, and the player only commits an offence, does seem to plant the idea of offence. I've had a player hand a rulebook back to me after reading those words, the player only commits an offence, and he said to me, "See, it's an offence." This kind of skimming to confirm previously held opinions is not at all unusual. I have suggested another wording here, no offence committed, an offence is not committed, which leans much more towards the idea that offence is an exceptional circumstance and not an always and every time. This explanation could be simpler if the words to do with intention were taken out, and the word intentionally was restored to the rule proper. I have written a suggested rewrite of the Rule 911 in my weblog. In that article I have proposed that advantage should be applied more readily to a player in possession of the ball who uses his foot to make contact with the ball, rather than the player who is defending his feet with the stick or trying to stop the ball with the stick. Whatever way forward is found, it must include the elimination of the penalising of a player who has had the ball forced into his feet by an opponent. A forcing offence pertaining to ball-foot or ball-leg contact is perhaps not necessary, but to go to the other extreme and to penalise a player the ball has been forced into is an absurdity. Another good reason for the umpire not to intervene when there has been a ball-foot contact, ball-leg contact, is when the advantage rule can be applied. And the advantage rule states that even if there has been an offence, it is not necessary to penalise that offence unless the opponents have been disadvantaged. Rule 12.1 says opponent breaking the rules, but Rule 12.2 gives the occasions upon which a free ball may be awarded, and they're all offences. So even if a player gains some slight advantage from ball-foot contact, there's no need to penalise that offence unless the opponents are clearly disadvantaged by it. Video referrals, where one team is asking the video umpire if there was a foot contact or a leg contact, when there is no hint of disadvantage to the team making the claim, should not be allowed. This sort of response to a ball-foot contact might be alright in club training games, but during a match, this player needs to be told, play to the whistle and don't try to do the umpire's job for him. That said, it is possible that the umpire needlessly blew the whistle and I wasn't aware of it, because I can't actually see the umpire in this shot. Here we have an example of the uncertainty of advantage. Would the Belgian attacker have received and controlled that pass, or would it just have gone off the end of the pitch, with no way of knowing? There was really no justification for calling an offence and awarding a free ball. Sideline ball would have been adequate. The following two incidents are both about the raising of the ball in the circle, a far less trivial matter than an incidental ball-foot contact in midfield. The umpire's reaction to the first of these was incorrect, but I am assuming he was penalising a deflection and not something else that occurred in the circle. It is not an offence to raise the ball in the air, particularly off an accidental deflection, unless it is dangerous or leads to dangerous play. There was no possibility here that this ball was going to cause danger or would lead to dangerous play. There was no offence. There was no reason to award a penalty corner. I say I presume because I am confused by the placement of the 15-metre hit. It's hardly opposite the place of the offence,